My mom did something completely inappropriate at her dad's funeral. TLDR. My self-victimizing mom embarrassed my grandpa at his own funeral, and IDK if I should ever speak to her again. This is way long. Sorry. Lots on my mind. My family recently lost my grandpa, mom's dad, over the summer. It happened pretty quickly. He was sick for a long time but was still extremely lively and showed no signs of running out of time. Of course, that's when these things happen. My 21F mom, 53F, planned the entire funeral. She didn't take anyone else's opinion into regard, planning it around her work schedule to be in her local church despite it being in another city from where my grandpa lived. She didn't let her mom or her sister help with anything and didn't even tell them about the post-funeral lunch until the night before. So, we all get to the church for the service. The plan is my mom's priest. I don't think he ever even met my grandpa. At least not in the last 10 years. We'll say a eulogy. We'll go to the cemetery for the burial. And then the aforementioned lunch. No one in the family is allowed to speak at the funeral. Just this priest. He's going entirely off of what my mom told him. Now, for some background about my grandpa. He was a Marine and took a lot of well-earned pride in this fact. He traveled the world after retirement to help soldiers. He watched my brother, 22M, and I every week when my parents had responsibilities as paramedics and bought my family groceries. All the time. He was truly a wonderful, altruistic man. You'd think my mom would share all of these things with the priest to talk about. Right? A eulogy to honor a former Marine and loving father, brother, and grandpa? No, of course not. One thing my grandpa didn't talk about was having bipolar disorder. It's outdated, I know, but I think talking about it hurt his pride. Hell, I only know because I got diagnosed with it as well, and he wanted to make sure I knew I wasn't alone. This topic was to be avoided and none of us talked about it. It was Grandpa's business. My mom told the priest she was in charge of my grandpa's medical well-being. So whether he told her or not, she would have known about his mental health. So this priest starts the eulogy and starts talking about how my grandpa battled his demons of bipolar disorder, and the whole room tenses up. My grandpa's brother had to be physically restrained from standing up. The priest looks at my mom and says, "That's what you told me, right?" She just nods solemnly like she has no idea. 30 minutes. 30 minutes of this stranger priest talking about my grandpa's bipolar disorder. Completely inaccurately and inappropriately, might I add. He didn't say a word about his service, about his love for his family, about his sense of humor or his love of classic cars or his obsession with Coca-Cola. We were all stunned and sat there in angry silence. And none of us were even given the chance to stand up and speak about him afterwards. The car ride to the cemetery was largely silent with my dad, brother, and mom. I don't remember who mentioned what had happened, but my mom defended it. My brother defended her. I don't think my dad weighed in. I couldn't even speak, I was so mad. The burial came and went. He actually did get a lovely military ceremony, which was nice. I cried. It was what he would have wanted, etc., etc. The only people that came to the reception were my immediate family. My aunt and her boyfriend and son, and my brother's girlfriend. I sat with my aunt. She asked for help taking some flowers to the car, and we both exploded to each other about the whole thing. I'm a lot closer to my aunt than my mom. For some context, my mom is a desperate attention seeker and needs to be the number one person on everyone's mind. She constantly put me down and used my mental, physical health struggles to make her look like this. Oh, so poor mom struggling with a problem child. She used my aunt's dyslexia growing up to make herself look better by being the smart sister. I Could go into a lot more detail about how my mom treats me and my aunt as well as her other victimizing tendencies. But I feel like just mentioning that gets the point across. My aunt and I agree that my mom 100% used my grandpa's funeral. We think she was trying to make a point about how she had to take care of my grandpa as he aged, because he was so cripplingly mentally ill. God, he would be furious if he heard that, since she was always there for him, aka essentially took away all of his choice in his own medical care despite him arguing. It backfired tremendously since everyone is incredibly pissed at my mom. But we do think that's the case. My aunt has been debating not talking to her anymore and said this may be the last straw. I've tried to give my mom a chance afterwards in hopes that maybe embarrassing my grandpa like this taught her a lesson. But she hasn't changed at all. I don't know why I even bother hoping anymore. She's never changed. So why would she now? But she's my mom. I don't think I could ever cut out my mom. What do I even do about this? I know you're only seeing one incident, but please understand that we reacted this way for a reason. This wasn't an isolated act of my mom behaving strangely. This is a pattern that caused some major issues. I can't stop thinking about how angry my grandpa would have been if he heard that eulogy. I don't know if I should forgive and forget. I know she'll do something similar in the future. That's not even a question. Do I move on? Do I talk to my mom about this? Do I confront Far specifically? The priest should have known better. I can't comprehend how he thought it best to bring any of that up. JS. You can't change what happened, but you should talk to the priest. Tell him that in the future he should talk to several members of the family to get a better picture of the man he's eulogizing, instead of one bitter, attention-seeking daughter. Personally, I don't think I'd be able to not confront your mother. I'd rip her a new one. Tell her how disappointed I am in her, and then tell her not to show her face until she makes amends to the family. As for your grandpa, do you have a local paper that publishes obituaries and memorials? If so, I'd write one about your grandpa and all the things about him and have it published. It will likely cost a few $100s depending on length. If not, I'd post it on Facebook with the heading, "The Eulogy My Grandpa Should Have Gotten." Take a look at R, Raised by Narcissist sub. I would go and see with her. Go low contact with her and look up the gray rock technique. The reality is your mother has been this way her entire life. You need to let go of the image in your mind of someday getting the mother you want. You'll never have it, and you'll spend a lifetime chasing her approval. Foster relationships with the good people in your family like your aunt. Get into therapy yourself. Confronting her won't help. She'll turn it around on you and then complain to everyone how her own daughter attacked her after she went through so much hard work with her father and the funeral. Just limit your interactions with her as much as you can. Don't talk to her and don't invite her over. If you're at the house, just keep things to a minimum. Say hello. If she asks you questions, give her short and vague responses, then leave the room. Don't give her any specific information about your life. The sooner you accept that you'll never receive the love and acceptance you want from her, the better off you'll be. Only you can decide what kind of relationship you can tolerate with your mother. From my experience, cutting toxic people out is liberating. If nothing else, I would set clear boundaries and let your mother know exactly what those are. You're young, but you may want healthcare directives to ensure your mother is never allowed to have control over your care decisions. Suggestion? Write, or rewrite, his obit mentioning all the beautiful things you and your family love about him and have it published. Outshine that horrible eulogy. Make sure your mom's name is the last family name mentioned in the survived by part. The priest might have been young. The person who presided over my grandmother's funeral was young and used swear words in his eulogy. About her, she was a lady who never used such words in her life. Mom, grandmother's youngest, and I were so upset we almost walked out. Also, priests, pastors, etc., are supposed to keep confidentiality. Both of my parents are United Methodist ministers. Honestly, I think I'd have interrupted the priest and gone, "Non, this is not who he was and he didn't fight his bipolar. You need to focus your ass on something else." My friend had a husband who committed suicide and he was a friend of mine. The priest started talking about how it was a sin and all that. I literally said out loud in this church, "Are you foo-plussing kidding me? You gonna give some $1 hit ceremony on this and not on the great person he was? You are $1 and priest straight to hell for you." Then started talking about how awesome her husband was. This priest told me after the entire ordeal that I would be going to hell. And I said, "Well, if I do, I'll be sure to say hi to you, cause you are definitely going there. You are a fake priest." My parents dragged me away. First off all, please, let me say how sorry I am for your loss. I can understand. I was close to my grandpa on my mother's side too. But you and your aunt cannot let this slide. It's going to cause some tension. And there certainly will be some tough battles ahead. But I have a feeling your grandpa was a lot like mine. He was a proud man. He didn't want anyone worrying about him. Heck, even in the last days I got to see mine, he was still cracking jokes and making light of the situation. Your grandfather sounds like an amazing man. And he deserved a lot better than what he got. From his own daughter, no less. I cannot tell you what to do. But I will say this. If this is a battle you are worth standing your ground on, and it sounds like you have your aunt for support, I think it's time to give your mother and brother a dose of reality and let them know it's not always about them. I don't think I'd talk to her again. But that's just me. She sounds like she's dealing with her own personality disorder. And she can do it alone since she wants to be abusive and hurt people. I would work with your aunt to set up a memorial, post it on Facebook, and basically just say, "I know everyone was very shocked, appalled and heartbroken that no one was allowed to speak at the funeral. And all we got was a speech full of bitter lies and half-truths written by my mother. We will be hosting X event. And if you are interested in it, please message me and I will send you the date and time. Please do not share this with my mother. And if she comes, she and anyone else who shows up with her will be asked to leave and removed by the police for trespassing if they refuse. Just publicly shame the hell out of her. Give everyone else the vindication and catharsis they need. And then go no contact." Sounds like your mom is a narcissist. Is it also possible she was trying to paint that narrative because she's trying to get money from his estate or something? I have an aunt that is this way. We could only believe one half of what she said. She would act all wonderful to people and then strike like a snake to suit her and put her in the best light. I honestly think she believed her own lies. My grandma refused to turn her back on her until my aunt cornered her the last time when visiting her and scared her so bad she was shaking. That was it, and now none of us have any contact because she is insane. She was always that way, but got worse with life happenings. My point is, I get it, and I'm so sorry she did this to your grandpa and the rest of you. Maybe consider a tribute to your grandpa in the town he lived in the newspaper? Family can be who we choose. It doesn't have to be blood. If you don't cut your mother off, I hope you hold her at arm's length so she cannot continue to hurt you. You deserve to live your life without her drama. My condolences on the loss of your grandfather. I was close to mine too. But he has been gone over 30 years already. Hard to believe. Hugs. Live your life to make yourself happy and your grandpa proud. Honestly, It almost comes across as her projecting. Mental illness runs in your family, and she shows a lot of narcissistic traits which could be informed by a lot of things. I don't doubt this isn't isolated. But in the same way, you have to contextualize your behavior as it relates to your disorder, particularly if it was unregulated. In her case, I think you will never make progress until you have a sense of what is actually wrong. That won't ever condone any of this or the damage done. More, it would allow you all a sense of what comes next. Still, I am going to guess she is resistant to that sort of self-reflection, and that can be an answer in and of itself. Obviously, she upsets you. This has generated a lot of resentment, and as an adult, sometimes you just have to wash your hands of it and cut contact. If you're feeling up for it, maybe you could arrange a memorial service with the family members that were upset and keep your mom far away from it. Just a gathering where people actually get the opportunity to speak about your grandpa. If you're feeling particularly mad, mentally plan how you'd mess with your mom's funeral given the chance. Plan her future eulogy accordingly. Your mother is the hero in her own fantasy world. Do a celebration of life. Then you and the rest of the family can speak. You can talk about your grandfather's service and how he went to help other soldiers. Talk about the good times when he watched you. Doesn't even have to be religious. Get photos, articles, letters, and set them up so people can see them. Have some food and drinks and make it a positive party for the guy. Serve some of his favorite food, things if possible. We had Labatt 50 at my grandfather's funeral. Super loyal to the brand after they supplied Canadian troops in the Korean War. You can tie fun stories on it like that. It's kinda like a big re-send-off. Don't invite your mom. I would go and see. She used her dad's bipolar disorder at his own funeral for what? Pity? She made it about her 100%, and she sounds insufferable just from the small amount you've said about her. I also have bipolar, and my heart would shatter if my son used it against me. My suggestion would be gathering family minus her and giving the eulogy he and you would have wanted. There's no rules to how this has to go, and you can still create the goodbye memory you wanted. Take some space from your mom and grieve. You don't need to make any major decisions right now.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.